this system can get people to do a lot of other behaviors that are seemingly irrational. It's what makes a lot of different systems like social media work. It's in dating apps. It's in different financial apps. It's in online shopping. I think when you start to look at the behaviors that people have a hard time moderating, I think a lot of them rely on this system.
Let's now talk about the scarcity loop. There are 3 components to it, and these 3 components get exploited in our lives everywhere we go.
Yeah.
What are they and how do they feed off each other?
Yeah, I mean, so for context, the reason that I started thinking about this is that I live in Las Vegas. And in Vegas, I mean, you talked about your experience with slot machines. Well, not everyone in Vegas feels the way you do about slot machines.
I don't say that with any judgment or moral superiority. I truly believe there's a biological difference between me and that person in Vegas who could throw their life away.
Yeah, totally. I agree. So I basically make the observation that, one, you have to realize that slot machines are all over Las Vegas. They're in the grocery stores, they're in the gas stations, they're in the restaurants, the bars, they're in the airport. People play them all the time. And so when I go down to the gas station to, fill up my truck and get a Diet Coke, I'll see people in there at, 7 a.m. playing the slot machine. And I see that and I go, why would anyone do that? Like, it doesn't make any sense because everyone knows the house always wins.
And by the way, when the house wins in blackjack and poker, it's only slightly, right? It's like, it's 51-49, right? What is how much does the house win in slot machines?
So it's actually not super, super far off of those odds. So in the past, slot machines used to be, they call them one-armed bandits because the case was that they were one-armed bandits. Now I believe that slot machines are return about 85 cents for every dollar you spend on average. So I see this,
which is smart for reasons you're going to explain.
Yeah, we'll get into why that works and why once they shifted from not giving people frequent wins and rewards to more frequent wins and rewards, why slot machines took off. So I make this observation about slot machines and I start wondering, okay, how does a slot machine work? How can this thing get people to be down at the 7-Eleven and sit for hours and hours and play this thing where you're going to lose? Play it long enough, you're going to lose. It's just how it works. So I go into journalist mode, and what was fascinating is the first people that I call are people who are, I would term them, they're gambling researchers, but they have a very anti-gambling bent. Okay, so they're looking at, okay, here's all the reasons why gambling hurts us. Here's why people get hooked on slot machines. And I call them up and I talk to these people. And they tell me all sorts of things that are kind of like the myths you hear about casinos, right? So one person said slot machines only play in the key of C. And the key of C is very pleasing to people and it relaxes their wallet, relaxes them and in turn their wallets. Another person tells me, casinos don't use right angles because right angles activate the decision-making part of your brain and that'll slow down your rate of gambling, all these different things. Another one was casinos don't have clocks, so you lose track of time.
Did you hear the one about how casinos inject oxygen into the air to, I don't know why that would make you want to gamble more, but I remember hearing that they're pumping oxygen into the room.
Also known as the biggest fire hazard ever known to man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I go, okay, sounds good. But the problem is I live in Las Vegas and I got a casino like 2 exits from me. So I go into the casino. No, they don't have clocks. But neither does Costco, neither does Walmart, neither does any normal business. We don't just hang clocks everywhere.
I don't have one in here, by the way. I don't know if you noticed.
Right. Well, you're trying to manipulate me somehow.
I am trying to get you to play a slot machine.
The right angles thing. Slot machine screens are a square. Those right angles, right? And then I call up a slot machine audio composer who lives in Vegas. It's a real job you can have in that town. And he goes, "Where'd you hear that? I use all keys. I'm just trying to make the best little jingle that I can. I'm just trying to have fun." So I realized that my inherent problem is that I am talking to people who want us all to stop gambling. And I need to talk to the people who want us to start gambling, right? I got to follow the money on this thing. So long story short is through some different contacts, I end up at this place on the edge of town in Vegas. And it's this new cutting edge casino. But it is not fully open to the public like a normal casino would be. It is used, it's a casino laboratory. So it's used entirely for research on human behavior. And the people invested in this are gambling companies. So big gambling companies, like Boyd, Caesars, whatever, all the big names, but also a lot of tech companies. So there's 73 different companies that are invested in this place. And it is very much like a Twilight Zone of casinos. You walk into this place and you're like, I'm in a casino, but there's a lot of people with PhDs and there's, they're doing studies. And I end up talking to a guy who designs slot machines, and he basically explains like, oh yeah, here's how a slot machine works. And he lays out this system, and I talk to other people who talk about it in different ways. So I call it the scarcity loop. And so the reason a slot machine works is it works on this 3-part system that I call the scarcity loop. So part 1, or the first condition, is opportunity. You have an opportunity to get something of value. So in the case of a slot machine, it's money, right? Part 2 is unpredictable rewards. You know you're going to get the thing of value at some point, but you don't know when, and you don't know how valuable it's going to be. So with the slot machine, once you play a game and those reels are rolling, they could all land and you get nothing. They could land and you win, say, $2 on your dollar bet, or you could win $20,000 on your dollar bet. There's a crazy range of outcomes every single game. And then 3, and this is important, is quick repeatability. So once those reels land, you can immediately repeat the behavior. You can play again. So the average slot machine player plays 16 games a minute, which is more than we blink. The reason that this is important to talk about, that we're not just talking about slot machines here, right? This isn't a gambling podcast, is that this system can get people to do a lot of other behaviors that are seemingly irrational too. So it's what makes a lot of different systems like social media work, right? You post something, you got an opportunity to get some likes, some status. So you check and recheck because you don't know when those likes are coming in. You don't know if your post is going to go viral. You might get canceled. You might get a message from someone that you think is great, on and on and on, right? It's in dating apps. It's in different financial apps. So one of the reasons that Robinhood really took off is because they increased the quick repeatability by removing fees for trades. It's in online shopping. A lot of advertisers are using casino-like features in their ads to sort of drive profits, and that's led to a 7-fold increase in conversion rates when they put like a spinning wheel for a discount. And so I think when you start to look at the behaviors that people have a hard time moderating, I think a lot of them rely on this system.